What's up, everybody? Welcome to Murals in the Market Live. If you were just over on my Instagram and it got cut off, man, I got a lot going on in my mind right now, so sometimes I do some slip-up stuff. Welcome to Murals in the Market Live. We come here every Saturday at 11 a.m. Man, another beautiful day in the market. It's a little bit chilly. I'm still jumping off. You can still come down here and get some produce, get your pumpkins and all that jazz. Man, this week we got a very special twofer going down. We got Ghostbeard here in Detroit with me, and then Patch Whiskey is in Seattle, so we're going to bring him in. But first, let me do a little bit of house cleaning and give a shout out to Divinity for last week. Man, The Little Bit Project, if you haven't checked it out, go check it out, thelittlebitproject.com. Get yourself some positivity in your life. Go to Murals in the Market Live from last week and check out our gig that we did in the market. We could have gone all day. We gave out cards. I kept them in my pocket all week. Anytime I felt like anybody needed a positive vibe, I just passed it forward with the Little Bit Project cards, and man, it was amazing. So, shout out to Divinity once again. But man, when you have two dudes like this, so last night I was on the phone collectively with these dudes for almost 3 hours. So, if that lets you know how good this conversation could be, you have no idea. Ladies and gentlemen, the man himself.
Hey.
What up, Ghost, man?
How are you?
I'm doing good, man.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for coming out, brother. Yeah. I know it's early, man. At least for me, I was playing Call of Duty late last night, so I don't know what you were doing.
It was early for me, too. It was a rough one. Hair of the dog.
There it is, man. Thank you for coming out today. Man, we got a lot to pack in, but let's get started, dude. Before we bring in Patch, let's talk to you. Last night, one of the first questions we talked about was, who is Ghostbeard, man? Is Ghostbeard you, or is Ghostbeard the character?
Yeah, Ghostbeard is me, right? I am Ghostbeard. Not saying that, I won't come up with maybe a character specifically named Ghostbeard down the road, or that I even dabbled with it already. But and the reality of the situation is Ghostbeard was a name given to me by my nephew, and ever since, just about 8 years ago, I've used that as my moniker, my handle, my name, So yeah, Ghostbeard is me. I am Ghostbeard.
That's what's up. Because when I'm doing tours, people always ask me, so I love to be able to give people like the real, true answer. And then the other flip side to that is your character does have a name.
Yeah, the character does have a name. My character here is called the Woodland Creature. He's been around, like I said, probably about 7-8 years, and with that being, it was one of these things that he was built and created out of just an original style that complemented Patch's style, and it was something that our two characters were able to play together nicely on walls and different jobs that we were doing together. So the Woodland Creature, he was built a little bit out of necessity, because I had to make sure that when me and Patch were running around the country painting these characters, we left behind characters, one each, that we could leave behind for the community to enjoy the way that we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So talk about the inception. I mean, how'd you guys meet? Because you guys didn't meet just doing art here. I mean, that's y'all right. Got a background.
True. Yeah. So normally this is where we'd both be on camera at the same time.
No, let's hold it up there.
And in unison,
we'll
tell you the story.
No, we're not even going to then let's hold that up, because I'm actually still waiting for him to sign on. So as soon as he signs on.
But with that being said, we do have a story.
And it is a story. And it's crazy when I talked to you didn't tell me the story, but I was talking to him, and he started kicking right into it. Like, you were like, yo, we got this thing. And I was like, yo, save it. I literally was like, save it, dog. Like, I know, but I want to hear it live. So while we're still waiting for him, let's see if he's in my list. You see him in there? All right, we can talk. Well, let's just move on to the background. I mean, so you're from Detroit proper, man. Talk about that.
Correct. I grew up in Detroit, just like a lot of the local artists that have pushed their way through Murals in the Market. Sheafy, even Ellen Rutt, and different people who have claimed Detroit as home and literally have no way to disconnect from Detroit. I mean, I don't want to disconnect from Detroit, but it's a difference when there is no disconnect, because you are Detroit, and Detroit is you. It's in you, and it wasn't by choice. And now I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. So let's leave out how you got with Patch, but let's talk about your background in the Detroit game. You know, how did you start here? You know, what led you to this? We talked last night, and you said, you know, you since beginning you knew that art was you.
Totally.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So for me, it was like I knew I was being told by a lot of people too that I had the talent to make it happen at a young age, and so I had a really good support system. I had good teachers. I had a good support system. My parents were very supportive. So all these things they culminated in me actually believing in myself too, right? As I grew up, I realized it wasn't all just lip service, and that I actually felt it. I felt that I was a little bit more creative or advanced or whatever it was. And, you know, life hands you a lot of different situations that try to pull you further and further away from your passion. And art fought its way to the forefront every time. So for me, anytime I even thought that maybe I had to do something else, art would come stand in front of me and say, don't go too far. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was definitely something that I was never confused that art played a pivotal role in my existence on this earth, you know.
And you talking about a young age, like...
Yeah, I'm talking about like third grade.
Third grade.
Which would be, what, 3 + 5? That's 8. I'd be 8.
8 years old,
right.
Bro. So when do you remember your first time ever thinking that I'm going to do this for like a living? Like that, you know, because a lot of people do art and they do it forever. Yeah. But when did you start saying that this could be something that's a business?
You know, I always, I hate to say always, but I did know that I was going to do art as a living, maybe even in high school. You know? By the time I had gotten, you know, the sports age, mm-hmm. and realized I was never going to be 6'5", and my jump shot always fell a little short, I knew that art was what my gift was, you know?
Okay.
And I embraced it full-heartedly, you know? And at that point, it really took a turn because, you know, you get what you put in, you know? And at that point, I started to put it all in, and I started to, you know, reap the fruits of the labor. And it was a pivotal changing point for me mentally, and thinking like, oh, I can do this. This is something that I could figure out how to do.
So we got a question right here. When did you start to develop your specific style and your characters?
So an interesting thing about Patch and me is that when we first met, I was just 17 years old going into college, and he was 21 years old coming back into college. That's not exactly how we met, that's where we met. We'll talk about how we met when he gets in here. But with that being said, I would have to just believe that, like, I already had a style that was my own. I think that style, if you're asking of that style, I'm an 80s baby and a 90s kid. And what that means is I grew up on Japanese video games, and I grew up on a certain era of cartoons. A lot of people will say, hey, who's your inspiration? And you might find that your inspiration is a graffiti artist. Your inspiration is a street artist, you know, someone like myself, or maybe it's a fine artist. For me, my inspirations were cartoonists. Tex Avery, you know, he did all the Looney Tunes, man. This guy was a genius. You know, Walt Disney. Who didn't love Walt Disney? Now, I know we look at him and we think, yeah, Walt Disney's a little cutesy. Everything he did was too perfect, cookie cutter cute. It was amazing, though. It was amazing. Like, so you look at like Tex Avery and Hanna-Barbera. These are the types of people who, in my early childhood, drew me into art. Pulled me, you know, from my living room, made me grab pencils and paper and draw.
Okay. So what led you to the next phase, which I assume would probably be art school?
Yeah, art school was one of these things where it was just a natural progression. like I said, in high school, I started to take art serious, and I started to see the path, you know. And like I had said before, any road could take you there if you don't know where you're going. That's a little Lewis Carroll, but it's true. Sometimes you just have to get on the road and walk and see where it goes. So that's what art school was for me. I already had the passion. I already had the um, the the wherewithal to continually try to do art, even when I was up or down. So at this point, it was just like, well, put on your boots and walk the road and do it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I tell people all the time, they'll say, do you think school is necessary in certain things? And I don't say it's necessary, but it definitely, if you're trying to add some accent to your flavor, that's where you get it.
Sure. I mean, when I graduated from college, coming out of art school, I felt a little jaded because at that time, it was the Great Recession of 2008. And they released us into the world, and they didn't have a job for anyone. They pretty much released us into the world and said, hey, go take your degree and whatever you can figure out to do with it, that's cool. But there is no job in that field for you right now. So, the one thing that I always constantly realize, though, is that you don't like to think that you paid for your friends, right? But what you did is you met people who were like-minded that you wouldn't have met if you weren't there. So that's the most pivotal and important thing about art school, I think, is that, it's important to know things like Shepard Fairey and Kevin Lyons were college roommates at RISD.
No shit.
Okay? It's important to know things like me and Patch both went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. So when you think about things like how do these people know each other, you also get into the whole thing of apprenticeships.
Yeah.
Sam Friedman was Cause's apprentice. Bo Stanton was Ron English's apprentice. I apprenticed under Patch Whiskey. So, the relationships you bond in college turn into mentorships. They turn into peer relationships, and I don't think you could ever not see the value in these relationships when you realize we are two professionals doing it from two different corners of the country, and we know each other. And now that gives you a more global approach. It gives you a more national approach, and it helps you break into the art industry in different ways, organically, shaking hands with people you already know, and they're introducing you to people that they know, and this is how it expands, So I think school is important. I don't ever tell anybody that school is not important, but I think it's important for me to also say that you don't have to go to school to do this, right? 50% of it is showing up. 50% of anything you do in this world is showing up.
Yeah, man. So can we talk about the first mural that you went Patch still? We're waiting on him. I sent him a thing. He is in Seattle on a different time change, so give him a break, everybody. But if, can you talk about your first mural with Patch?
Yeah. So first and foremost, Patch had came into town. We were doing a string of jobs. No, I lied. That was later. Patrick came into town. We had decided that we wanted to paint 4 or 5 murals of Patch Whiskey in Detroit. Of some of Patch's stuff. And the point of what we were trying to do was to give Patch a lot more visibility in the city. I mean, we were already traveling and painting together. He didn't have much work here, and there was no reason for it. So we tapped our connections, and we did what we could. We got him a few walls up. And on that same trip, one wall that we got was in Hamtramck, right near my home. And it was a large wall, and he did a piece, and I did my first piece right next to him. Oddly enough, it's the only piece in the city that has my old moniker before Ghostbeard. And there is only one mural where I ever signed that moniker.
And it's still running.
Still running.
It's still running. We talked about that last night too, man. Patch, where are you at, man? I need you in here for this.
Yeah.
Because y'all two are going to link up and kick this to the next level, man. So you guys did that run of murals, and then he got a big mural, like a huge one, right?
Well, he had, on that trip, it was just that he had, we had found all the murals for him, right? We were literally going about finding walls to paint, As far as the big job in which he brought me in and how we first started the apprenticeship and all that kind of stuff. That had actually happened before that even. See, me and Patch, after college, we did have a period of time where, you know, he graduated, went back to his home city, home state. I graduated, came back here. As I said, when we graduated, it was right around the Great Recession. There wasn't a whole lot of work. So, you know, it took some years before we reconnected. But when we reconnected, he always knew my hand. He always knew my style. We always had a similar style. And what he was doing was a big job, and he needed some help. He knew that I had the flexibility because I worked for myself and the availability. So he reached out to me, and I saw it as an opportunity to start moving in the direction of painting walls. And he wanted me to paint walls. I wanted to paint walls. And he even had that same type of push from a mentor type figure who was big in the graffiti world before me and him ever painted walls, a guy named Ishmael Lords.
Okay, yeah, we talked about him too. How he influenced him. So,
well, really, what he did was he showed us that, you know, at this time, Patch was doing a lot of studio work, and he was the one who really drove the bus and said, "Let's get walls," and he was doing that to Patch, and it was a trickle down, right? He pushed Patch, and Patch pushed me, and therefore I even owe gratitude towards him for that too.
yeah, man, we talk about the importance of mentorship, man. You know, I mean, the way you talk, it's a redundant question to even ask it. But I mean, do you feel it's absolutely necessary? I feel like it's one of those things, especially in something like this where you learn the real culture and the real rules.
Yeah.
Through word of mouth. Is it necessary to have that mentor type?
You know, I think it's a lot like college, right? You don't have to do it, but are you going to walk away better? Yeah, you're going to walk away a lot better.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's hard because you have to swallow your pride. It's not that you aren't as good as the artist you're working for, right? He's at a different stage. See, artists get confused about this whole, like, you know, trying to put themselves on a tier and trying to compare one person to another. Art is individualistic. There is no right or wrong, and there is no good, better, best. As you know, some people love Basquiat and Warhol, and some people hate them, right? Some people are like, I don't like that kind of art. And they're free to feel that way. That doesn't discredit the art anyway. It's just art is meant to be individualistic, and it's intended for everyone, like these people walking these streets, to have an opinion. If I made art that everyone liked, maybe I'd figure out the Matrix, but but on the reality of it, it probably would be forced.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Do you ever get any push from people who are like, how come, you know, does your art have a message? Can you know, do you ever get any pushback from people on that?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, I feel like sometimes people, and especially, it's not as much as the early career as it is now. I feel like people, they really want to know, what's this mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, oh, you just painted this? Well, you know, some people can't even see the beauty in it until they can establish its contextual relevance.
Right.
And there's certain things in the art world, which, you know, it's a flower, man. It's a flower. It's a piece of art, but it's also a flower. It lives. It's like it's hard to see it through these eyes, but this is a wall, but it's a mural, and this building, it breathes. These bricks, they tell a story, and the art on top of it, it tells a story too. And that story doesn't have to be proving anything or subdividing people and making them be like, well, I agree with that. I don't agree with that. I try to create art that I know can be well received by any age, any ethnicity, any race, and that everybody can kind of enjoy it the same. One of my favorite things is that I get a lot of people who their kids love our art, so we get pictures with kids in front of our art. We get people with dogs because I paint this tongue, so we get a lot of people that bring their dog out. And it's like, one thing I can say is the reception that I see coming back everybody posting the pictures seems to be happy.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And they all seem to be like enjoying their time in front of the wall. And I don't know if that was my original intent when I started or what, you know, but once I saw that that's how it felt, I became more addicted to that, making the happiness feeling.
Yeah, man.
Way more than trying to push an agenda. And I know that there's certain people who really believe like, well, the more your voice gets heard, the more of a responsibility you have. I don't disagree with that. I'm a pretty vocal guy, but you know, when it comes to art, it's like I don't want to taint art with. Listen, my art's obviously not the real world. You look at this art, and I've created the world. Why would I bring first world, third world, real world problems into a vision that I've created to help you escape it?
Right. Right.
You feel me?
For sure.
So like it's a tough one for me. Whereas I do stand 10 toes down and firm on things. I have no problem voicing my beliefs or, you know, any of my morals or, you know, how I feel. But for some people, art is the platform, and for some, art is the escape. And for me, I use art to escape this crazy world.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man. So, like, you touched on how this building is breathing. Let's talk about the process, because we talked about the process of, you know, you coming up with murals and how you do your thing. Some people project, but it's important for you to really see the building, touch it, and be a part of it.
You know what? And that's something that I learned from Patch. I think Patch is a little bit more of a look. Patch comes from the Appalachians. He's much more of a nature boy, Ric Flair style, you know. Whereas he kind of, you know, he started off painting sticks and stones. Little tidbit of fact for you.
Literal sticks and stones.
Literal sticks and stones. So all these kids out here saying, "Oh, look at this big wall that you did." It's like, well, ask them about them sticks and stones, because those were sitting on the curb, painting tiny, and it's different. There's steps. It takes time. You can't continually keep your own self down because you're comparing yourself to people who've been doing it for 15 to 20 years. You know, but yeah. So like with Patch, it's the kind of thing where, you know, he had an understanding of, you know, it's the beauty of a friendship, right? He had this understanding of like, you know, this building, you know, it's lived a life before, right? There was people in here. This could have been a meat packing plant. This could have been a whatever. You could feel the energy of the building. The building has energy. The neighborhood has energy. You can't feel that energy looking at me in that screen sitting on your couch right now. Your energy at home, completely different. The energy is right here. You have to be here to feel this energy. And that's what we learned. We can't like come up with designs from our home for a wall in Brooklyn, because we got to be in Brooklyn. We have to talk to the public. We have to talk to the people. We have to feel the energy. We have to know. Maybe that neighborhood's going through something that we don't quite understand at that moment. You would have to be in it. And the neighborhood, believe it or not, the neighborhood always opens their arms and holds you. You end up eating in their neighborhood. You end up, you know, hanging out on the corner. The second you start drawing, I don't care what city you're in or painting, people's interest levels go through the roof. And now you've got 3 new best friends that are stopping by, dropping off mangoes, bought you coconut water. I mean, the humanity that we get to experience from what we do is beautiful. And part of, I think, the reception that we get is because we absolutely believe in like feeling. There's nothing more important than making sure your process is organic.
Yeah.
That is the most important thing. If there's one thing I could say, and it was going to hit home and resonate with a young artist who's watching, the only thing that I could say is make sure that you're not deviating and going away from something that comes off your hand organically. You know, you have something inside of you, and it's layered elements, it's style, it's the color, it's the composition, it's this. And if you harness that organic potential, and you really, put the effort in. 50% is showing up. Put the effort in. I guarantee you will notice that you've created a style that's all your own, individually yours.
Man, what I loved about talking to you is everything we talked about, you make happen. You don't wait for shit to pop off. You are in the middle of it. You recognize when you want to do something and you go at it, man. And people don't really understand that there has to be that need and that desire to succeed, man. Talk to them about it. And while we're talking, why don't we start walking? Because it's all you today, brother, it looks like. So let's go over to the other one. We got another mural around the corner, man, but talk to him about that. Y'all want to go with us to the level?
Yeah. No, we're going to the year one mural, and the year one mural is a little different than that one there. So the first year we came to murals in the market, we didn't really have a proper invitation. We had been working on some jobs. Actually, a wall that's behind Metropolis Bike Shop in Corktown. You would be familiar with that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we were working on that project, and I had talked to a friend of mine, some Eastsiders, and they said, that there's a mural festival coming up. And I said, I did not know that. So then we looked into it. It was probably a week away or a week and a half away. So rest in peace, man. I reached out to my friend Jordan T, legendary Detroit artist who's no longer with us. And I said, hey, homie, you got to do me a favor. You got to walk me into their office. And he said, I'll just open the door. You're walking in yourself. I said, all right, no problem. I came over. He went out and had a cigarette. He met me there, and then he walked me up to Jesse's office. And I remember clear as day, Jesse was in his office, and Dan was in there. They had a little meeting thing going on, and me and Patch walked in, and he was almost like, who the hell are you? And I was just like, well, I'm Ghostbeard. This is Patch Whiskey, and we're here to paint. And he was like, all right. And anybody who knows Jesse knows he likes the rowdy, cool, crazy shit, So he was like, all right, this is cool. And, I think everything was able to really come full circle because I had actually known Rula's cousin, Joanne, was the person that I had contacted, one of my East Side friends. She owned the building in which we painted the first year, Swiss Imports, right in the market. I'm not sure if they still own it or not, but at that time it was her family's business. So yeah, I mean, the first year we kind of pushed our way into the office. They hooked us up. Nothing but gratitude, because to be honest with you, it was that moment that was the catalyst for the snowball effect. It might have started with this wall, but it rolled, and we ended up doing a lot of walls, and risking a lot, but putting it on the line. And this was just the beginning. But sometimes it's important to make sure you mark it as the beginning.
Nah, man, for sure. So what was after this? I mean, because you went on to something big after this.
Sure, yeah. So that's kind of what I meant about snowballing. Yeah, from here we had met some contacts that led us to pushing in the door on Powwow in Hawaii, which is the original flagship powwow. Yeah, that was probably one of the biggest things in both of our art careers.
Yeah, man. So
it created relationships with people like Andrew from ThinkSpace. Get well, buddy. And totally, he's been a blessing, right? He's helped me show art in contemporary museums across the country, and I'm privileged and honored to be able to do that. It's just a beautiful thing. So I also met artists like Tristan Eaton, who's from here.
Yeah, shout out to Tristan.
Shout out to Tristan. Yeah, I've met. There was so many people at this festival that we were in the same field as, that we had not met. It was really one of those turning points. Mm-hmm. It was a turning point.
Yeah, man. So I'm looking at this, and we talked about it yesterday. You're usually on the right and he's usually on the left.
I don't
People
know
ask
why.
me why.
Yeah. You know, like I was saying, I don't know if I have a real explanation, but I do know one little secret tidbit would be I'm a righty and he's a lefty. So I don't know what that has to do with anything, but I think it has to do with something. You know?
Right.
I think it just, I think it's a comfort thing, and it's easier to position. To be honest, we will go either side, but I think it just happens that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
It's not that it's ever by choice. It's just what's the composition? How does it look the best? What do you see yourself painting? And then we work together. You know.
All right. So talk about this one, man.
Well, this one was definitely interesting because this was like, see, this was like in my beginnings. You know, so I love it because I don't paint like this much anymore, right? If you look at the brain on this guy, there's some gradients and stuff in there, and it's really the only place that I have much gradient at all, and that's because at this point, my mentor Patch Whiskey, he wasn't doing any gradient, and I was still learning a lot of different things that he was helping me learn and teaching me stuff. So you'll see some stuff in there where you're like, oh, and now you look at my most current work and it's all gradient, and I think what that was me learning the cans.
Okay.
It took time. And, you know, just like anyone, as you figure out how to do something, you add it into the repertoire.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's always a diamond in them?
You know what? I painted a diamond on his finger just because of the laser thing, but we created a rainbow diamond and painted it when we were in Hawaii. And that's like a multicolored diamond. And just a little tidbit. A lot of these things, like Patch's character, this rainbow monster, right? Something that's kind of important to understand is like sometimes you have to use what you have, and if you only had scrap cans or paint cans with minimal amounts of paint in them, right? You would then sometimes need to try to figure out different designs in which you could paint with less. And so Patch has a lot of this rainbow monster. A lot of it comes from his need to be able to paint something very large with scrap cans of paint. And so, you know, obviously when you're painting this large, you need a little bit more than scrap cans. But you know, when you're doing it on a smaller scale, it fits that. It would fit that them guidelines.
Right,
You know?
right. Okay, so now, what's going on now for you, man? What's going on? You know, can we check out some current stuff?
Yeah, the most recent mural that I've done was in Flint, Michigan recently. I did it for the Flint Mural Project. Yeah, everybody, you know, if you get a chance, go out. They're putting a lot of murals up in Flint. Go check that out. It's cool. Yeah. And, you know, Flint businesses need love. You know, Flint got forgotten and by a lot of people, but it also is being honored by people. And, you know, we need to do what we can. So, yeah, definitely, if you get a chance to go check out what they did in Flint, check that out.
Okay.
Outside of that, I do have walls that are coming up. I do got some private commissions. I do got some different people who've hit me up about some walls that may be visible off of the interstate. So if I end up locking down certain jobs, there might be big pieces that you guys are able to see on your daily commute or something. So that's exciting. Outside of the big murals, I actually been doing a lot of digital work. The one thing about the pandemic is that when the pandemic hit, in the beginning, they shut the tap off. Boom, it was over. There was no calls, no nothing. And the nice part is for an artist, we have studio practices. So you don't always have to have someone tell you what to do. Sometimes you got to wake up and do it yourself. And so, you know, just about the time I was getting into some studio practices and starting to knock that stuff out and start things, about 2.5, 3 months later, it started to come back full tilt and actually even more than it had from even before.
Right.
So it's like I said, I'm blessed. It's a great thing. I know everybody's not in that same position, but it's important to know that like the opportunity is there. Just get up and go to work. You got to. You know, look, if you can get up and go to work for some other guy, sit down, put on some goofy ass outfit for some other dude, right, and go do other shit. Get up and do it for yourself, man. Do it for you. You deserve it. You know what I mean? That's my opinion of it. It's like, so every day when I woke up and I didn't have something to do that was like, part of a actual task list, it's like, well, you know what you want to do, and those are the times where you need to take the liberty to try to, fulfill those visions that you've been having, or create those things that you've been wanting to create that you didn't have the time to do before.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And I messed up because we should have talked about, before all this, you weren't always a mural artist.
That's true.
You had a real life gig.
Sure.
And I will come back to that because people need to hear that, man. Like, people think that you just picked up, everybody, they think artists just pick up cans, they go to art school and they do these things. But
Yeah.
You were a plumber for a hot second, brother.
Yeah, I did. I was a plumber for about 5 years, maybe a little bit longer, but about 5 years.
So,
and it was, it's always humbling, right? When you think you should be the jazz pianist on the ballroom stage, and you're the guy sweeping the floors, watching the other guy play. That's humbling, and you have to eat humble pie in this world to understand how great your victories are. If all you were handed W's and you never took a loss, or if you didn't have to do the job, I know people understand this. This is the easiest thing to understand. We all have to get up and make money because otherwise we starve. And it's like, you just can't forget that somewhere in it is the answer, and it always lies inside of you. It's always your passion, right? Because people will say, well, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Dude, that's the most horseshit thing I've ever heard.
Right.
Okay? Let me give you the revamped 2020 version. If you love what you do, you will work every day of your life doing it. You will never have a day off. You will never get a break. It will become your life. And guess what? That symbiotic relationship between you and it is what allows you to become greater than it. You need to not worry about these things. You need to focus on just the hard work, the effort. Effort is what wins this race. I mean, talent might get somebody there faster, but hard work will always hit the finish line first.
Bro, that's it, man. I was gonna say, what are your closing whatevers, but that's I can't even say. That's it. Yo, where can we support you? Where can we get the art? Where can we give you some money, man? Because you know what's up.
Right now, I got some stuff with ThinkSpace, so I know that they've got some pieces within their catalog. You can go check that out. ABV Gallery, Greg Mike's Gallery out of Atlanta. They'll have some. I got some paper pieces going over there, and they might even have some canvas pieces still. I'm not sure. They just sold a skateboard, but those two galleries right now would be the easiest place to find something. Outside of those guys, you can always contact me directly if you were looking for a commission. I'm a little bit out on my commissions right now. As I said, I'm a little bit busier, so it's not that I don't do commissions. It's that I have to take care of outside work when it's allowed and permitted, and when winter comes around, a lot of those commissions get started. Okay. So I'm always accessible that way. You can find me at Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. You could Google search me if you feel like it, just to show some people. And if you really would like to get a hold of me personally, you could DM me through any of those, or go to ghostbeard.com and send me a message.
That is what's up, man. Thank you, brother, for holding it down for the whole time.
Hey, I appreciate that.
Patch, I'm going to have to get with you.
Damn, you hold me out, bro. What's going on, man? What are you doing over there in Seattle, man? What time is it?
Right? Ladies and gentlemen, Ghostbeard, hey. Detroit's own, born and raised East Side, baby. Shout out to the East Side.
Hey, we love it, man. And you know what? When we're out here and we put on for the city and we throw up for the city, it's Detroit, man. You got to understand, one thing about Detroit is I didn't ever understand, and this is probably my best closing. I didn't understand Detroit's, why I felt the way I felt about Detroit. And then I went to Hawaii and I experienced what they call the Aloha Spirit. Detroit has its own Aloha Spirit. It's not the same. It's its own. And when you talk about the Aloha Spirit, it's family. It's the land. it's the buildings, you know. And the reality of the situation is, Detroit has its own spirit. I don't know what we would call it, right? You know, but it's definitely something that's built the same way as the Aloha spirit. It's built off of family, kinship. It's built off of like community, working together. If there's one thing Detroiters know, it's that sometimes where you're standing is the most desirable place in the world, and sometimes you're standing in the least desirable place in the world. And it's super oxymoronic to think that you didn't move, right? You stayed still. You just stood there, and the environment changed around you. And that Detroiters should be proud because we've been vigilant, and you see the growth of downtown, and you're starting to see the growth of the communities on the outskirts. Those outskirt communities are not big investors from China and New York. Those are Detroiters like me and Jason. And keep doing it. Get your piece of the American dream. Make sure that you invest in Detroit if you believe you are Detroit, because Detroit needs you. We need to make sure we don't lose the cultural fabric that we've had. We need to make sure that we are pushing all of our young entrepreneurs to go out there and like do the best thing that they can with their time, resources, money, invest into their neighborhoods and own it, and help us try to do what we can, man. I love Detroit from the bottom of my heart, and if you feel that way, then I would hope that one day I look over and you're my neighbor.
Damn, my man. There it is, everybody. Ride Detroit, bringing it to you. Murals in the Market live every Saturday, 11 a.m. Every Saturday, I got the best job ever because now I'm about to have the best day. I'm going to work on a positive tip, man. If you want to check this out again, go back and watch it if you didn't get to see the whole thing, because this is easily one of the most positive vibes and most Detroit ones we've done. Chief was up there, and he's a representative, but he ain't even come that hard. So I'm going to holler at you.
We love Chief. We
love Chief, but I'm
love Chief.
saying, yo, he was in Cali. I'm going to have to get him in Detroit for one of these boys.
We love Chief.
So, yes, see y'all next week. Hey, if you want to do a tour, ridedetroit.com, e-bike and walking tour. We'll talk about all this stuff. As you can see, I have all the inside information. So when you do this tour, you get the best info. All right? Ride Detroit. See y'all next week.